Good to go.
Okay, Dave, you're up.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Team Powerhouse show every Tuesday night, live with a very special guest tonight. If you wanted to know about insurance and any kind of insurance with Anywhere Insurance,
Everything you wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask.
this is the time to do it, right? So if you're out there, you own, don't own anything with insurance needs, this is the place and the time to ask.
Is there anybody out there that's not involved in insurance in some way, shape, or form?
Or not
Renters insurance, homeowners insurance, auto insurance,
business insurance,
life
investment
insurance.
life insurance, life insurance. We have a lot of insurance things we can talk about, and we are going to hit a couple today. If there's questions you have, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Miss Jennifer Crowley from Anywhere Insurance, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me back.
We love having you. It's been a long time since Jennifer's been on, and it's been too long. We're gonna start doing this on a regular basis because the amount of questions we get about insurance with our business lives is 3 levels deep, and it is always something new happening in the insurance business. Would you agree?
I agree. Yep, ever changing, and you want to stay on top of it for sure.
Yes. Jennifer Crowley from the home of West Haven. Westies, would you say would be the right background? Westies is your
Yes, I grew up in
West Haven, and currently still living in Connecticut.
Connecticut. Yep, we're in Meriden now, so I'm now more centrally located.
You got a great husband and
Yes,
kids. Are they
husband,
watching the
2
show?
Kids, they better be.
I want to thank you so much for allowing her to be here tonight. We know that it was not easy, and you also just came off vacation time.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being here tonight. Also, a very special. She's actually still on vacation and came to do the show tonight just to be here for you. So thank you so much again for being here.
Fluent for this?
Yeah. I
Nice.
flew in from my pedicure appointment down the street.
Yeah. So you've been in the insurance business for a long time. How long has it been since you've been in the insurance business?
18 years.
18 years.
18 years.
How's our sound quality, their thing? Sound check is good. If any of you guys can't hear what we're saying, please let us know. It's important to make sure. All right, so into this 18 years in insurance, that's a long time. And you've seen a lot of things happen in the insurance industry over the last 18 years. So there are many different types of topics to talk about, right? Everybody owns a home or a car, or should, or will be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to getting insurance, what are some important types of things you need to have when having insurance? What would be like topics of insurance? Like what are important things you need to know about having homeowners insurance?
Well, so home or auto, right? If you
Yes.
own property, you can purchase insurance to protect that property. So if something goes wrong, there's a fire at my house and it has to get rebuilt. Not many people can afford to rebuild a house out of their own pocket. So by buying the insurance policy, you're kind of transferring that risk to the insurance company for them to pay for things to go wrong. And you pay a premium, right? So everybody that owns a home, anybody that's renting and you lose all of your clothing, your furniture, you can transfer that risk to the insurance company.
Is fire a automatic on insurance for a home? If there are certain things that you have to have in owning a house. So for example, I come to you, want to buy a house, what would you say are some things that are mandatory that you have to have with a home?
So the lender specifically, when you have a mortgage on a home, they're going to require you to insure the home for the full replacement value. They want to make sure if that home burns that their investment is protected. So you cannot say, and I had a client ask me for this last week, I just want to insure it for what I'm buying it for. And there's a big difference for what you're paying to purchase the property versus how much we need available to replace it after damage. So the lender wants replacement costs. They want to make sure it will be rebuilt to where it was before the loss.
So let me ask you a question then. So when the house is paid off, it's almost like when you own a car and it's leased, you have to have, or not leased, financed.
Yep.
You have to have a level of comprehensive insurance on it because you don't own it yet.
Right.
So with a car, usually, or at least that's what I used to do, is back in the day when I made that final car payment, I called the insurance company and I said, okay, I'm dropping everything, I just want liability. Okay? Is that something with the house too, where people can just go to a certain level of insurance on the house?
Only certain homeowners insurance companies will insure it for a lesser amount than that replacement cost. So it's usually gonna be like a surplus lines company where you can say, like, I want to insure it for a set amount or what have you. So you're not gonna find that very often in the property field. And with a vehicle, to be honest, I had a very old Subaru Legacy that was paid off when I bought it. You know, I bought it old and in cash, and I still chose to carry the collision on that. So that's a question I have with people too. Just because it's paid off, you wanna look at what is the value. If my car's still worth 10 grand and I total it tomorrow, do I need that $10,000 to one, either fix this car or potentially put down on a replacement vehicle? And if the answer is yes, then you wanna keep that collision on.
Yeah, but I did 20-year financing, so.
So, but you see what I'm saying? So I always have that conversation, because it's not always like, oh, I own my
First
car,
20
I
years old, I
don't
don't
need
care what
this.
happens to me.
Everybody's situation's different. So when you take that risk on yourself, that means you're willing to self-insure. So you one, have to have the funds to fix the damages, right?
Going back to the house, just to touch on the house for a
Mhm.
second. So you buy a house, there are certain things you must have to protect not only the home, but you said
Mhm.
the value, replacement cost. So what kind of other items are there involved in replacement costs? There's obviously the house itself.
The replacement cost value, so when you're working with an agent, we shop with multiple insurance companies.
Yes.
So each insurance company has a software program they use to determine the replacement value. How much do we need to insure this house for? So it's my job as the agent to input those details correctly, right? So I'm almost going into a calculator, let's say, and I'm putting in, this is a colonial versus a raised ranch, this is how many square feet it is, this is what year it was built, how many bathrooms, how upgraded are these bathrooms? Is there oil heat, gas heat, is there an attached deck? Like, we put in all of the details as accurately as possible to make sure we account for all of the things that are specific to this house, right? So if we have to now rebuild the house to the way it was, we wanna make sure there's money to do that. So if I leave off your 400 square foot deck, guess what? You might not be insured to the right amount.
That's a very good point you
Because
make.
you're not gonna have the money there, because we didn't account for that deck. So when you're getting quotes with different companies, you're going to see, well, this company says I need to insure it for this amount, and this company says this amount. And the important thing is that you're verifying that what they put in is as accurate to the best of your knowledge.
So again, just to repeat that, one of the most important, if not the most important thing, is the details of your home that is given to the insurance agent for the fact of what the value truly is and what you're paying for.
Right.
Well, in addition to that, then, I'm gonna, ipso facto, if you install
Yes.
400-foot deck,
You need to
let the
it-
insurance company
yeah,
know.
They don't know.
Because that sucker's not covered.
Right.
That's a good point.
Potentially, so when I'm doing a quote for somebody, especially if it's a new purchase, there's, luckily for me, there's listing photos. So I have my 3 monitors and I have the town assessor's page up. I'm looking at what the town has on file for this property. I have the listing up with photos to give me a sense of the interior and how ornate is the crown molding, is there chair rails, is it hardwood, is it carpet? So I'm getting a set of eyes on the property, let's say, where I
You're
never
pulling
would
comps on the
before.
property.
Yeah, so as I'm talking to you and you're giving me information, now, if you're a new home buyer, you don't know, you've only seen the house once or twice.
Right.
So I'm asking you these details where if you don't live there, it's okay that you don't know, but that's why we rely on what is public record, what does the town say, and sometimes there's differences with that.
Very common.
Because somebody did an upgrade and didn't inform the town, or they got a permit and the permit department didn't talk to the assessor's department. So the field card isn't always accurate, and we wanna make sure that we're doing it as accurate as possible. So even if, you know, hey, this basement's finished and there wasn't a permit pulled, I still need to account for, if there's a fire tomorrow, you want that finished basement replaced. I have to say it's finished if that's
Interesting
what's
point.
there.
So basically what you're saying is, and this is important, just to touch on Eric, if you add a deck, you want to call your insurance agent and let them know, not because your insurance is going to go up per se, but more importantly, you want
Properly
people.
It's a good question, though. Will it go up?
But, I mean, if you're increasing the amount of insurance, you would think the premium would increase, but it's not, you know, if you're adding $5,000 or $10,000 to your replacement cost, it's not gonna go up hundreds of dollars on the premium, right? You're adjusting the amount of insurance.
And if you do finish your basement, which a lot of us do, you'll want to call your insurance agent and say, listen, I just finished my basement. will you ask like how much money did you spend on it, or do you ask what kind of details you did to the
Yeah.
basement?
They'll ask, like the details, it is the standard finish, did you do like high-end materials, or just saying
Lined with gold.
finished versus partially finished versus
Right.
unfinished.
Gold moldings.
An example with my house, I, unbeknownst to me, added a mini split to my sunroom, which offers heat and air.
Yes.
That little addition changed my 300 square foot exterior attached sunroom to living space. Because guess what, guys? There's a roof, 4 walls, and I added heat, which means it can be used all year round. So I didn't know that. And this is a very exterior space. Like when you open the door from the dining room, it's a different temperature than winter time. And when my town did a new assessment, they said my square footage was higher than I ever, I'm like, no, that's not true. And I brought the field card and I invited the assessor into my home to prove to them that this is an exterior space.
Oopsie
And
doopsie.
I said, you know, the side walls, they're crank out windows. I can't put an AC in the window because it's a crank out. I had to mount the AC to the wall. And she said, but you added heat. I'm like, well, yes. And she said, so it's living space. I'm like, well, darn it. So.
Right.
Lucky for me, if I were to go sell my house now, I'm selling a larger home than I bought, right?
Much more
That's
valuable
awesome.
home, yes.
But my first thought was, I need to call my insurance company because my replacement cost was built on a 1,600 square foot home and now it's 2,000.
So,
I need to increase my coverage because if I have a fire today, they think they're rebuilding a, 1,600 square foot house and it's no longer that.
interesting.
And that's not everybody's first
But they would
response.
still add that 3-season room.
They
It
would
just
still,
wouldn't be heated.
or you might run out of money because the amount of insurance in your policy is not enough to build back what
And
you
the
have.
cost of things
And
have
that's
gone
the
up,
problem.
yada,
Yeah.
yada.
Yeah, and understand too that the insurance policy, let's say you sign it 10 years ago,
Yes,
okay?
Yes.
Yeah, your house value has
Yes.
increased over the last
Yes.
10 years, so.
yes. You
Do
want
they
it.
adjust for that, or?
So the
great
policies
question.
themselves will typically have like an inflation guard in there. So if you do nothing, every year, the amount of insurance, that coverage A, that first figure, you'll see incrementally increase, and it's a set default, 2%, 3%, 4%, right? You want to revisit that every 2 to 3 years, because that set default, in some cases, is not enough. So just because
Not in this
it went up
market. I'm sure
3%,
not in this
if real
market.
costs went up 10%, you're now underinsured
Yeah.
because you haven't updated.
And
that.
in this market, you have 10 to 20% increase in value per year on your home. Reality is, you need a high replacement cost.
Right.
Let me go back into, Eric mentioned something that triggered me to remember, what if you have new mechanicals in your house, or I put a new heating system, new cooling
Yeah.
system?
And sometimes that triggers a discount. You got a brand new roof, right?
Oh my God.
So if you get a brand new
You didn't know
roof,
that, Dave?
I did not know.
The-
So if you do heating, new cooling, it triggers a cheaper insurance cost. I
potentially,
didn't know that.
updates to the home will trigger some discounts in some cases. So you definitely want to, and think about this, if you've ever done any renovations.
Yes.
So when I had the claim at my house, my kitchen was destroyed. My kitchen that got destroyed had, I'll picture this, the single sheet laminate backsplash to match the
Ooh,
single sheet
wow.
laminate counters from
Was
the
it orange?
80s.
I was gonna say.
It was white with the metal edging, right? It
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah,
So when my kitchen got destroyed, I didn't want to put that back.
of course not.
But you're insured to put you back to whole. So the insurance is gonna replace what you have. It's
Right.
not there to make you better.
Right.
But I
What
chose
if they don't
to,
make it anymore?
well, they're going to replace it with like, kind, and quality, right?
Okay.
So,
Dollars
but
and
I
cents
chose,
wise.
I don't want laminate counters.
I want backsplash.
I want a quartz counter. I want to upgrade to stainless steel appliances.
Yes.
So I did put some money out of pocket, but when that claim was done, now I need more money to rebuild the kitchen that I've designed today versus the kitchen I had before. So when you do upgrades and you're changing things, and any renovations, you know, if I choose a laminate counter versus a granite counter, there's a cost difference in the building material. You need to make sure if you change the building material, that you update the insurance. Because how does the insurance company know? They're based on the old
Hey, I'm
information.
not sure if anybody's out there with questions on any social media platforms yet, but want to make sure I
Not
pay
yet.
attention to that.
And
And
if they have any
going,
questions, we're giving them all the information.
that's a very good point. So going back to the, so you've done, I didn't think with the mechanical stuff, upgrade, that would be a possible insurance.
Say if you add central air that you didn't have before, and now you have to replace all ductwork that didn't exist before, like that's cost.
Right. That's interesting. I bet you most people do not think about these kind of things, because the reality is people don't want their insurance to go up.
Right, right.
So they don't want their insurance to go up, so they don't wanna address the fact that they put some money into a house, and then later on their monthly bill goes up. But when things go sideways, at that point, that's when you really need to make sure you have told your insurance
Right.
agent of the upgrades.
Right.
All right, that's some good stuff there. So, what are some liability risks in homeowners insurance, car insurance? What do you want to start with? We'll do homeowners first?
So we can do home first. So when you are the owner of the property, you are liable for anything that happens on that property because you own it. So if you slip and fall in a parking lot of a shopping plaza, who's responsible, right? You could potentially have a lawsuit against the owner of that shopping
And I
plaza.
always found that to be interesting. You fall in a parking lot, and now it becomes the person who owns that parking lot, their fault.
Potentially, yeah. So did they clear it? Was there snow? Was there, were you in a walkway? There's all these questions that can get involved.
Crack in the
So,
road or.
yeah. So when you're the homeowner, you have to maintain your property because say a delivery man slips on your icy driveway and breaks his leg, you could be responsible for that. So
It's like, it just sounds crazy because you're like, well, why was he in my driveway?
delivering your
Right.
Amazon packages,
Right.
that's why they're mine.
Right.
But, so that's the thing, you wanna clear your walkways, you don't wanna have, steps without a railing, you don't wanna have, an unsecured pool, meaning any random child could potentially wander onto your property, cause there's no fence, there's no lock, they could fall in the pool and drown.
So
Like,
funny,
there's
We
reason.
never had a fence around a pool,
Mhm.
or any kind of, we were told you had to put a lock on the gate so they
Yeah.
can't walk up it.
Yeah,
Since the pool has been dissipated, if you will, but I never had a fence, or I didn't know if that was even a thing that need to have or not, but
Yeah.
that's interesting.
and that's the thing, like, there are companies that don't have restrictions, but they're far and few between. So when you look at, I want to insure this property, if it's an older home, if it's a very high value home, if it has a pool with a diving board, if there's a trampoline in the backyard, if there's a zip line from one tree to the other, like there's certain things that not every company is okay with insuring the risk that could bring. So when you think of a trampoline,
Trampoline's
usually
always
it's a
been,
child.
yeah, trampoline's always been one of the biggest things that people,
Huge.
will say, well, don't tell them you have a trampoline because
They're gonna find out.
they're gonna take you
They're
out of the
gonna
insurance
find out.
policy.
They're gonna find out, and they're seeing aerial images now.
Okay, so how's it
They're
find
looking,
out?
there's aerial images that the insurance companies have access to, and if you look on Google Maps and they see a trampoline, they're gonna want proof that the trampoline is not there, if they see that it's there. And I have to ask that question, every person I quote insurance with, is there a swimming pool or a trampoline or plans to have one, especially if it's a new purchase?
Right.
Plans to have one. If you're going to buy this home to then bring your 10-foot trampoline, I wanna make sure I'm giving you the insurance with the company that's okay with the trampoline.
So that was the next question. So there are insurance companies that will insure a house
Yes.
with a trampoline.
Absolutely.
Is the cost so crazy that people should be so fearful of it?
No, and it's not, and again, it's not that this specific item makes the
Let me ask
price
a
go
question.
up.
Let me just ask it. So, you want to buy a house and you want to put a trampoline in your
Yeah.
yard. Should a buyer be fearful of putting a trampoline in the yard and getting insurance? My
No,
question.
there are many companies that will insure you when you have a trampoline. The important piece is that you're honest about it.
Yes.
Because if you are with a company that does not insure homes because there's a trampoline, and your child has a friend over that jumps on this trampoline and breaks their leg, that insurance company will very easily decline that claim, because had they known about the trampoline, they never would have offered you the policy.
And now,
And now you're out of pocket for medical bills and expenses. And the scary thing is that the typical home buyer is so concerned about not opening that can of worms, keeping my price low, give me the best price, and they're not thinking about what could go wrong. And when I ask that question, do you have a swimming pool or a trampoline or plans to have one? 3 people come back to me. One of them says, absolutely not, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Oh, well, why do you say that, sir? He goes, because trampolines keep us in business. Okay, so an orthopedic surgeon who does surgery on the children's legs and femurs that get broken from the trampolines refuses to have a trampoline. That's a sign. Another one said, absolutely not, my son broke his leg at his friend's birthday party, I will never have a trampoline. So that's another injury, but in that case, it happened at a facility, right? And then, somebody else said, you know, their own daughter did something. So the people that are adamant about not having one are ones that have experienced the injuries that could be caused by one.
Right.
Everybody else that just thinks, oh my god, it's fun, we're gonna have this trampoline, we're gonna have this massive one and throw a hose on it and make it even more special and have, you know, all these kids over. I choose to not go to trampoline park parties because it's not worth my kid being in a cat. Okay, I overthink things, but, you know, that's risk I don't take.
So I have some questions on the trampoline. Sometimes the trampoline has a net around it.
Yes.
Does that change?
So the
That-
companies will ask, is there a trampoline, is it above ground or in ground, because now you have some that can be built into the
Yep.
ground.
That's pretty cool, by the way, if they're built in the ground. They're safer that way, because they're not as high in the air now.
Well, the orthopedic surgeon, because I went into detail with the follow-up questions with them, they said the rule is 1 kid per trampoline. When you get the second kid on the trampoline, that increases the risk because they're bouncing at opposite times and can
100%.
bounce into each other.
Right.
And then I said, what about these trampoline parks where people have parties all the time? And she said, they keep us in business. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to those. So, I mean, it all depends on your experience, and you could be a gymnast, and you could know what to be doing on a trampoline, and you're safe about it, and that's different. So, the insurance companies will ask, is there a trampoline, is it above ground or in ground, and is it netted? And some companies, as soon as you say trampoline, it's a, no, we're not insuring it. Others are okay as long as it's netted, and I've had others say it's okay as long as it's netted and the yard is fenced. So they want the trampoline itself netted so you can't fall off of it while jumping, but they also want the yard fenced so people can't just wander
I
on it.
never thought about the fact of the netted and fenced yard about a trampoline, that
Yeah.
actually makes a lot of sense. for
So
like
usually it's
changes.
netting is fine, but I have had companies say netting and fenced, so you have to have both.
So if you're with an insurance company, and you did not have a trampoline, and you get a trampoline,
Yeah,
then you call the insurance company and say, hey, I'm letting you know that I just installed a trampoline. So
Yep.
you're being responsible.
yep,
If they're one of those companies, will they say, oh, we have to drop your policy?
yes.
Well, then
They
what
will
hap-
flat out drop it.
No, they will say, we do not allow trampolines, and, you know, you're gonna have to find insurance somewhere else, and usually give you a time frame to do that, where they will not renew the
Wow.
policy.
Right, then Jennifer's gonna be like, all right, let me find you a company that
And
thinks
then you
it.
hire agent, and
Or,
we'll shop around.
or
and find
maybe
the right-
what you do is call Jennifer and say, hey, listen, I want to find out what the difference is in my insurance policy
Yeah.
with a trampoline versus out.
Right,
you know.
because then if I'm the agent on that, and I see that you're with this particular company that doesn't allow trampolines, if you called me before you got it, we could discuss the options. Well,
Right.
if you get one, we can't keep you here, I'm gonna move you to this company,
And
and this
maybe
is
it's
what they would
and
be
maybe it's
charging.
$200 a year and no big deal, and you're
Right.
like, I'll just get the trampoline, I'll put the insurance on my house that I need.
And I have new home buyers that are, the negotiation is with their kid. Well, we're gonna be moving into this house, I know you don't wanna leave your neighborhood, but we're gonna get you a trampoline. And then when I'm talking about the insurance and I'm doing the quotes, well, company A allows a trampoline and it's this much, company B doesn't allow the trampoline and it's this much. Sometimes those two companies might be $500-600 apart in premium. It's not because of the trampoline.
Right.
It's because
Liability.
of everything else mixed, we just have 2 different options. So now you as the parent, well, is it worth my kid getting happy and having a trampoline and me paying $600 more, or do I negotiate something else to get, you know, so once you have the information, you can make a better decision.
Jumping from literally jumping from
No pun intended.
from trampoline, I'm actually asking about bounce houses, right? So you have a birthday party at your house, and my daughter wanted a bounce house, and I said, no, I don't want a bounce house in my house with 6-year-old kids, because I know someone's gonna get hurt, and I'm gonna be the person responsible for this whole experience, and I don't need that kind of object in my house. And I said, we'll go to a bounce place, everybody bounces, and it's someone else's insurance, and yada, yada, yada. But if you go and get a bounce house for your birthday party, for your child, is that something that would be a troubled situation for your insurance company? Or is it something that is acceptable? And that's something I never thought to ask until
Well,
we
yeah,
actually
and-
this whole thing here.
And like, again, we don't ask about bounce houses because we're usually not a permanent fixture of
Right,
the property.
it's a
but
one-day event.
if you're using a company, you wanna make sure they are licensed and insured, that they are installing it, that they are installing it correctly, like you're not just putting it up yourself and potentially not staking it and things like that. But again, you're the owner of the property, and anything that happens on that property, you could still be held liable. So
So-
that anybody can sue you and you could still be held liable. if you're hiring a company that is licensed, insured, and inspected it themselves, you could potentially have that
But
liability
the
be on that
injury that
company.
happens with the kids bouncing around and banging each other
Yeah.
gets hurt, it's not really the fault of the bounce house company. 'Cause
Right.
They didn't do something wrong.
Right.
It's the two kids bouncing or five
Right.
kids in a thing, they get hurt.
And that's the thing, are you, and this is why.
I just want to know.
But I
for
mean,
insurance-
think about it, so,
Do you declare your insurance, hey, let's do a birthday party, click.
no, you don't
know.
gotta say I'm having a birthday party, but you need to be aware when you're bringing these fun things, and it's attracting multiple children, that one, don't live there, don't have the same respect for your property, it might be their first time there, they're not familiar with the property, it might be their first time on a bounce house, like, all of these things, you're just taking on the risk of something
I
if
gotta
it goes
figure, I gotta
wrong.
figure that kind of stuff, that entertainment component is built into the policy, cause I mean, you could get hurt on a slip and slide.
Yeah,
Are you gonna tell me that you
yeah.
can't put a slip and slide in your
No.
yard because somebody might, you
No,
know?
and that's what I'm saying, but he was asking like, who's responsible?
I went to my insurance company and say, yeah, we're not covering that because you're not supposed to have a bouncing thing in your house or your
No,
property.
it's not a permanent fixture and like you're
So-
hosting a birthday party, but anytime you invite people, I host joint birthday parties. I could have 75 to 100 people at my house at one time. Do you know what I do before that? I walk my
Drink?
yard.
No,
No,
I'm kidding.
that's I remember because I had very little kids and I wanted a lot of people and I'm like, well, I can't bring all, grandparents and everything to Chuck E. Cheese, so we're gonna host it in the backyard, but I made sure there were certain areas of my yard that had dips in it. Well, you know what, I covered that dip with a trash can. Like, I literally walked the yard to say, what could go wrong and how can I prepare to best
Smart.
set up the yard to avoid anything happening. If you have a hill in your yard that some little kid's gonna run down and smack, my front yard's a hill that goes onto the asphalt. I don't want you running on the front hill. Stay in the backyard,
Right.
You gotta control as much as you can
Right.
to avoid the risk. And if you don't, that's why you have insurance. So when you're hosting things at your house, as normal events, yes, your liability protects you, but you can't go under the assumption that I'm not responsible. You are, because you're the owner of the property. Everything will ultimately fall on you and potentially to be liable.
So to expand on that, the house liability aspect, if there's weapons in the house, there's no added concern on the insurance company's part?
There's no specific underwriting question to say, are there firearms in the house? There's no question to say, are you a licensed firearm or do you carry, like, that's not even a question we ask. So I'm not a licensed claims agent, I don't know if it comes up in liability claims, like if you were to.
Yeah, if
shoot
I was to
somebody.
use
Yeah,
my
I don't
weapon
know.
and shoot somebody on my property,
I don't
can
know.
they then, because if they sustain an injury on my property,
Yeah, I don't,
whether that's caused by
I don't
me
know.
or a trampoline,
I don't know.
you know?
I mean, that's gonna cause some other legal concerns that I'm not a licensed attorney either, but I'm also not licensed in claims, so I don't know how they would handle that depending on, was it negligence, was it, an assault, is there criminal charges or anything like that, I don't know, but as far as.
But they don't ask, so they
I
don't
don't
ask
have
if you
an
have weapons.
underwriting question about weapons.
Okay, and what about certain
Do I wanna
animals?
know?
Not breeds, certain animals.
Yes,
So like if you have
The-
gators or
Yes.
snakes or stuff,
chimpanzees, we had a chimpanzee attack in Connecticut several years back, remember? So the question will be, are there any animals or pets on the property? Yes, what kind? Are they farm animals like cows, chickens, horses?
Goats.
Is there any
Llamas.
exotic animals? Are there any dogs? If so, what are the breeds of dogs? So we need to know what's there, how many, and what's the use?
We're going right to the animal thing, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess so. But like, what's the
Yes.
use too? Like,
Right.
some people have chickens.
Yes.
Is it personal use, or are you putting a for sale sign and you're inviting people to your house to buy the eggs?
Oh,
Then
wow, that's a great
that's
question.
different.
Wow.
It's not just personal consumption. Do you
So-
have enough acreage for the animals that you're housing? Like, there's follow-up questions depending on what the animals are,
so if you're using the eggs, it's fine,
in most cases.
in most cases, not all, but
Yeah,
most
they'll
cases.
ask how many chickens, what's the acreage, and how you're housing them.
Really?
Mhm.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that it can be a question for insurance by having chickens.
I'm wondering what the risk is, the
I would-
liability part.
Well, I would bet you
Well,
dollars
selling.
and donuts that people out there have no idea
Yeah.
that if you have chickens, you should definitely be talking to your insurance agent because you have chickens.
Just let everybody know.
So if Drew sets up a lemonade stand in your driveway, okay? And somebody trips coming to get a 50-cent cup of lemonade,
50 cents, I haven't,
That'd be $1. I know, I'm like,
Go
that'd
look
be
for
$1.
lemonade, yeah, go ahead.
Not really lemonade.
Yeah, if somebody falls on your.
There's no overhead.
Hold on a second. Drew would say, would you like with or without vodka?
I mean, the thing is, everybody's too happy nowadays,
True.
right?
Yes.
You pretend to slip and fall and there's a lawsuit. You rear end somebody and everybody leaves and they're fine, and then 6 months later, oh, my neck and my back. So it is a very litigious time in the world,
Yes.
and you can never plan for being sued, but if the opportunity arises for someone to sue somebody they think has deep pockets,
Yeah.
they may. And if it turns out that you're liable, you wanna make sure you have the insurance to cover that for you. You don't wanna be left holding.
Absolutely. Kids in New York,
Yes.
when they're crossing the street, they don't avoid certain cars. Because they're like, if I'm gonna get hit, I'm gonna get hit by that car,
Yeah.
you know?
I want to just jump for a moment to another conversation about real estate. And one of the things that a lot of people are doing today now is they're putting solar panels on their roof.
Mhm.
So if somebody owns a house or buying a house with solar panels, is this something that can affect your homeowner's insurance in a positive or a negative way in the aspect, because now you have a situation where the solar panels being removed, implemented on the roof? How does that work with solar panels and insurance, and is it multi-level answer?
So when we're doing the replacement cost, we'll ask, is there solar panels, how many panels? But also, it depends on the lease agreement or the ownership agreement, who's responsible for the solar panels. So if there's damage, is the insurance company responsible? Because you as the owner are responsible to fix them for damages, then we wanna calculate the cost of that panel system into the replacement cost of the home. If it's a lease and you are not responsible for damages, then you're not gonna be filing a claim, then it's not gonna get calculated into the replacement cost of the home. So sometimes there is an underwriting question is there solar panels, what type of energy is it doing, how many panels? So it all depends on the company that's looking to insure it, but the important part is, am I responsible for damages or is the lease company? So I was looking into solar at my house, and my house butts up against the golf course. And under the advice of a very trusted family member, he recommended if you're going to go solar, you buy them so that you get all the tax credits. I was looking into purchasing the system. And we got all the way through to literally about to install them, and then it occurred to me, well, hey, hold on, we're sitting ducks for golf balls.
Yeah.
If I purchase this system, who is responsible if a golf ball hits the panel that's on my roof that I can't even see? And they very quickly said, well, you would file a claim with your insurance company. I said, no, I will not. And I pulled out of putting solar on, because I don't wanna risk something of potentially putting in multiple claims to fix something that I have no control over because there's balls, because people can't golf.
So let's just pause that idea for, so if you own a home near a golf course, think twice before putting solar on your house, because if a flying ball lands on that solar panel and breaks it,
Potentially.
you may be really in trouble financially in the cause of replacing that solar panel, fixing it, maybe fully liable because the solar companies are gonna say, well, we're gonna replace it for free.
Yeah,
You
it'd be
just
good
had a
question.
golf ball fly onto it,
So-
the golf course may not be liable for it.
So if you're hosting a party and you've got people in the backyard and somebody hits a golf ball and hits them,
Yeah.
are you liable because it
That's
happened
why
on
I
your
go
property?
off-site now. And honestly, it very well could be. Is the golf course liable? Is the golfer themselves liable? I mean, that's when you hire attorneys and then get into the level of it. But, and there's a risk by living near something like that, right? I risk a ball hitting my house and not knowing who I could potentially go after to fix it, and I'm now putting the claim in for damage that happened to me I had no control over. When you think about home insurance claims, you don't wanna be putting in multiple claims, first of all. You don't wanna be putting in small dollar claims, because that could risk your future insurability. You wanna use the insurance for something that was uncontrollable, it happened suddenly, it was a catastrophe, and I cannot afford to put myself back home again, and that is why you have insurance. You do not have insurance to maintain your property, that is the owner's responsibility.
Yeah, it's like when you go to Cheshire High School and there's a softball game going on the field over there,
Yes.
and you pull into the parking lot, and the
Ball
first
is
15 or 20 spots are wide open. And you're like,
Nobody wants
"Well,
to
I can sit in my car and watch the game,
Nobody wants
you
to
know?
park
And I'm
there.
like, why isn't anybody else parked here? Smash! you know?
Right. Oops.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Hey,
it just
Jennifer,
makes
I got a
sense.
problem, my windshield's
Yeah.
broken.
Again, yeah.
Again,
I was
yeah.
at the game last week and it happened again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, you wanna put yourself in a position where you're not putting in multiple claims. So for me, to have solar panels and potentially, who knows how many times the ball would hit it or smash it, I wasn't like the rest of
So before getting solar panels in your house, there's many reasons to question getting solar panels in your house. But specifically from an insurance standpoint, solar panels can be a challenge for insurance companies depending on what can go wrong. And you wanna check with your insurance provider before putting panels in your house, right?
Yeah, just see if you have to
liability.
change anything, update any coverages, and, yeah.
Now, I know we've been talking the show, been 30 minutes already in our whole thing here. And the one with Jennifer, when she's on the show, is she's got so much knowledge and so much experience. We love talking with her, but we need to bring her back on the show. We're gonna kind of end things here, even though we have 2 pages of questions and notes to
Yeah,
ask
we
her.
never get through it. We
But we're
never
gonna start
do.
having Jennifer on the show every month, okay? Because
Okay,
that is important for the viewers and for us as educated realtors or realtors out there who are watching the show.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking about somebody who's probably one of the most educated people in the insurance business over her time, dealing with so many kinds of problems and people and situations. So it's good to get educated, so prep your questions, put the questions out there, put them on our social media platforms, we'll ask
yes, send
Jennifer.
them in, we'll answer questions next.
More importantly, get in touch with Jennifer because she's a great resource for insurance, for your cars, for your home. We even talk about kids and families and cars. There's so many questions to talk about here, but Jennifer Crowley, Anywhere Insurance, a remarkable person who is very helpful and knowledgeable. I want to make sure we have her back on the show again a month from now. I want to start doing this every
Got it.
month. We get to the next part of the show, Jennifer, where we get to give out a free tumbler
Yeah.
to a lucky winner. And the thing, if you could spin that wheel.
Peter's being a little slow.
It's like every time, you know, there's so many things I want to ask you and get into, but it's conversations that are important for people to know and understand about.
No, we went over some important stuff.
Spinning the wheel. We got Joelle off IG.
Joelle E.
Joelle, Joe L-Y. Joe L-Y.
All right, Joelle, you are the lucky winner of a tumbler. Please get in touch with us so we can get this out to you. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today, watching Jennifer Crowley, answering questions, being involved. It's education 101 when it comes to you and your insurance needs. And it's important to ask the questions before making the wrong decisions and making mistakes, right? Thank you so
Work
much.
with an agent that's gonna do their best for you and put you in the right coverage.
Don't be fearful.
Yeah.
Be educated.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching the show today. Eric Vasquez in your far right, David here in your far left, and Ms. Jennifer Crowley in the hot seat. We will see you soon next week with another amazing guest, and Jennifer back in the show in another month's time.